The Hardys and the Guns. And we've talked about,
This is
by the way,
Dynamite.
this is done. Yeah, it sure is. 6/21 on your calendar, June 21st, the summer solstice. Everybody's brains were baked. The Hardys and the Guns, we've explained the folly of what they did they reunited one of the most popular tag teams of all time and gave it away on free television in a meaningless match. And then sometimes they're around and sometimes they're not. We mentioned they could have had a cohesive strategy. I would have done something to Matt Hardy to make him not only a raving babyface, but in an injured, sympathetic position, looking for revenge to bring Jeff Hardy back as a surprise. Boom, 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 to clear the ring and lead to a pay-per-view match, because the first time that you would see the Hardys together in this, given all the conditions, what prevail would probably be the most popular or the most profitable one. The big reunion in a grudge match on pay-per-view where the people got to pay to see it. And then possibly about a month or 6 weeks down the road, you've maneuvered them into a huge match on free television for the ratings. And then if you were very careful, they would earn their money if you had them work in some fashion back and forth between pay-per-view and television 6 or 8 times in the year. But you would get descending returns because look at the condition of them. And it's not, that's not like, an insult. Look at what they've done to their bodies. Can't do that shit anymore.
And I actually thought this was the best they've looked in a while, this match.
Well, I'm glad I haven't seen what Jeff did last, because what I saw was him just jumping up in the air and landing wherever the fuck he lands, and the other guy's supposed to catch him and break his fall or fucking cushion Jeff's fall somehow at the expense of his own body. But anyway, they could have made something out of this. The Hardys are icons. Now, what they did was without giving them their due as legends and having a couple of big matches that really got noticed, and you could have hid some of the weaknesses and people have been happy to see them. Now they just been here. And now they want to get somebody over with using Matt and Jeff to do it. The Guns, young team. But the Guns don't beat the Hardys. The interference from the two other fucking guys do. So you've just negated the Hardys doing a shocking job for this young team of the future to set up an 8-man tag team match that doesn't involve either one of them.
That was the most interesting thing, because again, I thought the match, because I've seen some of their recent stuff, I was ready to shit on it. It wasn't as bad as some of the other stuff I saw, and it was a hot crowd, and the Guns were doing everything they could to move around. So I wasn't going to kill the match, but then I was like, oh no, they're going to do something, I guess, with Ricky Starks and the Hardys and so on. But then the Hardys just vanished, and they were gone, and it was almost like they weren't even there to begin with.
Well, and also, and I understand what you're saying about how it was one of the better Hardy matches, but unfortunately, with my eagle eye and a discerning mind for this, it was because the Guns were bumping like human super balls. The Guns were literally working around Jeff to a big extent being immobile, and Matt to some extent being immobile, and all the action and movement, whether offense or defense, was the Gun Boys in large part. And except at one point, Matt made a big comeback and gave one of the Guns a twist of fate, and the Guns sold it like a stunner. I don't know where that, but anyway, the point is they created a situation where the green guys were having to carry the veterans. And yes, there's been the bruiser and crusher effect for many years in wrestling, where the opponents had to carry the icons, but the opponents were usually Bockwinkel and Stevens for Bruiser and Crusher, or they also experienced, or the Horseman for Nikita, or whatever it may be. And so it didn't do the Gun Boys too many favors to do this to get this win when they had to do all the work, and then the Gin and Juice come down, and they're the ones that beat the fucking Hardys, basically. And then Gin and Juice come back and get heat on Matt and Jeff, too. And then here comes Ricky Starks, and the heels stop him. And then here comes FTR, and they get a big pop. And they have a big brawl, but the heels are still up. And then suddenly, here comes, and I love the staggered run-ins.
No music.
And no music for the run-ins, because it's a sense of urgency. They're trying to save somebody.
And you got the pops.
And the people are going fucking batshit. So this part, yes, as soon as they got Matt and Jeff out of there, business picked up. But it's been a mishandling, unfortunately, of the Hardys reunion. But anyway, Punk clears the ring, gets the microphone, makes the challenge for the 8-man on Collision. And so we will see Gin and Juice and the Guns against FTR, Starks, and Punk. And boy, I hope the third episode of Collision is not a 10-man tag team match, but at least we got some hope here. So
that is the third episode.
For God's sake.
They said we want to have the match next week, not this week, next week.
Or Nick. Well, that is next. All right, now how do you look at this? This is an uphill or downhill situation. Next week would be next Saturday to me, rather than
okay.
Not a show and a half from now.
I think if it was going to be on this weekend show, it would be, we'll wrestle you this weekend. We'll wrestle you this Saturday. Not we'll wrestle you next Saturday.
Well, this Saturday is the next Saturday that we have.
No, it's the Saturday that's coming up.
No, it's not the only one. There'll be more. This is the next one.
It's the very next one, but usually the phrase is used for the week after.
Well, you don't have to put the qualifier "very" in, because just the next Saturday that we have as a humanity here, as a race of people on this big blue marble, the next Saturday we have is next Saturday.
When they announced the matches on Dynamite later in the show for Collision, I remember they announced Brody King versus Andrade, continuing the Andrade House of Black feud, but I don't think they announced the Punk match.
Well, I'm goddamn confused then, right? Or maybe they are, or maybe they confused me. See, that's the way it became. But we're going to have an 8-man coming up. It's what we're going to do. A lot of multi-man matches, but at least it gets Punk and FTR on the screen. They produced last week, so...
Yeah. You know what? That's the thing. They had that 6-man match, and they gave it time. And it was great, and it was different, and it was paced well, and it was exciting. And if you're going to have Ricky Starks as one of the top baby faces on Collision as well...
He gets a good rub.
Gets a good rub from that. And once again, to me, Juice Robinson stood out in this thing. Just his screaming, just everything about the fucking guy. Jay White looked good. It's weird to say this. They're trying to elevate the Guns. These guys were the tag team champions. It's easy to forget that. But they're trying to elevate the Guns by having them involved with all these guys. And the Guns have looked good in there, I have to say.
Oh, they did a masterful job of bumping and feeding and falling and et cetera, et cetera. But they're animated. They're so animated. But anyway, so basically Punk made that challenge for whenever it may be on Newfoundland time or whatever. And then he called for his music. Like Mussolini, he saved the day. And the Hardys had completely disappeared.
Gone away. See, you could have made it rhyme. You could have worked it.
Well, you scold me about singing so much. Now I'm frightened. And by the way, wonderful shot, pretty much all night, but especially in this match, of this big bulbous head across from the hard camera, the sign being held up. It looked familiar. As a matter of fact, for those of you who might not realize it, you can purchase the official Cornette Face t-shirt at JimCornette.com, available in sizes small to 5X for our portly friends. And you can have that right on your chest, just like that guy had the big sign. My head's not that big, though. But I'm looking down over everything.
That was a gigantic, and it was
A
pretty
gigantic head. Yes, it was.
It hit well during that Jericho match.
Well, we ain't there yet.